As the smoke of World War II faded, two superpowers rose from the ruins, each determined to shape the future of the world. One promised freedom, the other promised revolution, and between them lay the terrifying possibility of nuclear destruction. This is the Cold War. If you enjoy powerful history like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. A cold wind swept across the ruins of Europe as World War II came to an end. Cities lay in ashes, nations were broken, millions were dead. And from this devastation, two superpowers emerged with enough strength to shape the future of the world: the United States and the Soviet Union. Their ideologies could not have been more different, and their visions for humanity clashed with the force of two titans. From that moment on, the world was split into two rival camps, locked in a struggle that would last for nearly half a century. This is the story of the Cold War. The United States believed in democracy, capitalism, and individual freedom. The Soviet Union believed in communism, a system where the state controlled everything, from the economy to everyday life. Both nations believed they were defending the future of the world. Both believed the other was a threat to humanity. Neither was willing to back down, and both had nuclear weapons capable of destroying the planet. When the war ended in 1945, American and Soviet soldiers stood on opposite sides of Europe. Germany was divided. Berlin was divided. Europe itself became the first battlefield of the Cold War, not through armies, but through influence, alliances, and fear. Joseph Stalin, leader of the Soviet Union, pushed communism into Eastern Europe, establishing governments that obeyed Moscow. The United States responded with the Marshall Plan, sending billions of dollars to rebuild Western Europe and stop the spread of communism. The world quickly found itself living in the shadow of something terrifying: the possibility of nuclear war. Both superpowers raced to build bigger and more powerful bombs. The United States had dropped atomic bombs on Japan. The Soviet Union soon developed its own. The arms race had begun. Missiles became symbols of national pride and global fear. At any moment, a single mistake could end human civilization. In 1949, the United States created NATO, a military alliance to defend Europe from a potential Soviet invasion. The Soviet Union responded with its own alliance, the Warsaw Pact. The world was officially split into two armed camps, each watching the other with suspicion. Propaganda, espionage, and psychological warfare filled the airwaves. Every nation became a possible chess piece in a global struggle for influence. The first major conflict of the Cold War erupted in Korea in 1950. The peninsula was divided between a communist north supported by the Soviet Union and a capitalist south backed by the United States. When North Korean forces crossed the border, the United States led a United Nations coalition to defend the South. China entered on the side of the North. The war ended in a bloody stalemate, with millions dead and the border almost unchanged. But it proved one thing: the Cold War could turn deadly. Back in Europe, tensions deepened. In 1956, the people of Hungary rose up against Soviet control, demanding freedom and independence. Soviet tanks rolled into Budapest, crushing the uprising with brutal force. The world watched, horrified, but did nothing. It was a reminder that the Cold War's battle lines were rigid and unforgiving. The 1960s brought the Cold War to a terrifying climax. In 1961, the Soviet Union built the Berlin Wall, cutting off East Berlin from the West. Families were separated. Soldiers stood ready to shoot anyone who tried to escape. The wall became the ultimate symbol of division. Then came the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, the closest the world ever came to nuclear war. The Soviet Union secretly placed nuclear missiles in Cuba, just 90 miles from the United States. When American spy planes discovered them, President John F. Kennedy confronted Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev. For 13 days, the world held its breath. Nuclear war seemed inevitable. But through tense negotiation, both sides agreed to withdraw their missiles. Disaster was narrowly avoided. Meanwhile, the Cold War spread to every corner of the world. In Vietnam, the United States fought to stop the spread of communism, leading to one of the most controversial and deadly conflicts in American history. In Latin America, Asia, and Africa, both superpowers funded revolutions, coups, and proxy wars. Intelligence agencies like the CIA and KGB battled in the shadows, supporting allies and undermining opponents. Espionage became a deadly game, with spies risking their lives in the invisible war between superpowers. The space race became a new battleground for national pride. The Soviet Union launched the first satellite, Sputnik, and sent the first human, Yuri Gagarin, into space. The United States responded by landing astronauts on the moon. Space became a symbol not just of exploration, but of ideological competition. By the 1970s, the Cold War entered a more complex phase. Both superpowers realized that constant tension risked mutual destruction. They signed treaties to limit nuclear weapons, a period known as détente. But peace was only temporary. New conflicts emerged, and mistrust never disappeared. In the 1980s, the Cold War reached its final chapter. The Soviet Union was struggling economically, its government was rigid and outdated. In 1985, a new leader emerged, Mikhail Gorbachev. He introduced reforms to modernize the Soviet economy and open society. But his changes weakened the system instead of saving it. Eastern European nations began breaking free. The Berlin Wall fell in 1989, a moment that symbolized the end of division and the collapse of communism in Europe. By 1991, the Soviet Union itself dissolved. The Cold War was over. The United States emerged as the world's sole superpower. The world breathed a sigh of relief, but the memories of fear, division, and nuclear terror remained. The Cold War was not fought with tanks and armies alone. It was fought in the hearts and minds of billions. It shaped nations, toppled governments, and defined an entire era. And though the Cold War ended, its shadow still lingers in modern geopolitics. The rivalry between East and West never fully disappeared. The lessons of the Cold War continue to shape the world today.